Hello and welcome to Movies That Move Me. I'm your host, Elijah Winfrey. I'm an independent filmmaker, and this show is all about the movies that made me want to get into filmmaking. And today I am talking about a movie that came out March 31st of 1999. That's right. We're talking about the movies that happened right before the 20th century, the 1900s, as I hear some kids talk about it. But 1999, in March of 99, it was 10 Things I Hate About You. And this movie, I feel like, could have been called Teens with Brains. I'll explain that in a moment. But 10 Things I Hate About You, obviously, that movie has so many people that were in it. The main two stars, though, are Julia Stiles and Heath Ledger. And obviously, if you know anything about me, you know Heath Ledger is my favorite actor of all time. Julia Stiles, I had a huge crush on because of this movie. And I make the joke with my wife a lot that she reminds me a lot of Julia Stiles in this film, you know, as far as like her personality and the way that she jokes and thinks about things and that sort of deal. But the other thing that me and my wife were joking around about, because we actually just recently watched this again, because it's a movie that I watch, I want to say at least 7 or 8 times a year because I love it that much. We were talking about how it's funny how this movie came out in the same year that American Pie came out. And both movies are about teenagers. Now, if I'm not mistaken, American Pie, I think, is an East Coast film, and 10 Things I Hate About You was obviously based up in Washington, Washington State. But it's so funny to me how these are two movies about teenagers, and yet the teenagers and the high schools they live in and the things they're going through couldn't be any more different from each other. Because American Pie, you know, and I like that movie. American Pie, you know, those kids are just being kids. You know what I mean? They're not really, you know, using a whole vocabulary. You know, they're joking around. They're doing, you know, random teen stuff, right? It's really believable that those are teenagers. You watch 10 Things I Hate About You and the vocabulary that's used and then the way that the characters talk to each other, it's like, are they teenagers? I can't really tell. And then there's one scene where they actually have a teacher in it, and I don't know the gentleman's name who plays the teacher, but he looks about as old as the students he's teaching. And it's like, I don't know if that's really realistic or not. But if you take all that away, you know, that's why I call it teens with brains. You know, you got American Pie where they're just teens, and then you got 10 Things I Hate About You where they're teens with brains, and you know, they're tackling all these other subjects. But anyway, 10 Things I Hate About You. I love the movie because of the way the characters talk to one another. I really do. I think that's really great. The dialogue in this film, it's a script that like I feel like if I ever got into writing movies about you know, teens and things like that, I would want to do something like 10 Things I Hate About You. I also loved how everybody had their moment in this film. You know, it is a large ensemble cast. You know, you got Heath Ledger, you got Julia Stiles, you have Joseph Gordon-Levitt in this film. You have tons and tons and tons of people, and everybody has their chance to shine. And as somebody who writes scripts, I cannot express to you how hard that actually is to do. You know, usually you have, you know, the one character in a comedy who is the funniest, who has all the best lines, right? Or that character in an action movie that you just think they're so kick-ass because of all the different things they do. Or you have a character, you know, in a love story where, you know, they are the focal point. In this movie, everybody's got their shot to shine, and everybody does shine in this film. And I just thought it was a really cool movie as far as how to deal with ensemble casts, because you don't always see that. You know, you don't. You know, sometimes I actually heard my aunt Lillian. You know, she was talking to me one time, and she said to me that when she sees an ensemble cast, it's a red flag to her because she automatically thinks, okay, that movie might not be that good because look at all the people that are in it. And I never really thought about like that, you know, thought about films like that before. Then when she said that, I went, you know what? She's got a point. She's got a point because, you know, just because you have every big name doesn't mean your movie is going to be good. You know, your movie could still be, you know, utter dog crap. And you know, you have a pretty poster, you know, as far as all the names that are on it, but you don't necessarily have a good movie. You know, an ensemble cast does not make a good movie just because they show up on set one day. And so that was something I was kind of thinking about, and that's one of the reasons why I kind of decided I was going to do this as a movie that moved me because I wanted to figure out something to say other than I really like this film. But I do. I really like this film. I like the way the characters talk to each other. I like the way how everybody has their ability to shine. And the soundtrack for this film is so awesome. The way they infuse all the different things that were popular in the 90s. And I got to tell you, 10 Things I Hate About You had a huge impact on my movie Captain Corpse. You know, I wanted to do a movie where I took Galaxy Quest and Spaceballs and put them together with a love story that, you know, you would find in a movie like 10 Things I Hate About You. And so all those things kind of infused together to make my sci-fi comedy. Now, whether or not people pick up on that when they watch it, I don't know. But what I do know is that was my intention. And when it came to the soundtrack, you know, I chose to do a ska soundtrack for Captain Corpse, which was funny because I had to explain to some people what ska was because I, you know, put a post out on my Facebook saying, hey, does anybody know any artists who do ska? And they said, what the heck is that? So I knew some people weren't going to be as much help as other people were. But we got to figure it out. And we actually have the Captain Corpse soundtrack. In fact, I can actually show you here. Yeah, the Captain Corpse soundtrack. There you go. But like I said, that was a big reason why I chose to do ska, was because of watching 10 Things I Hate About You and loving the soundtrack for it. So I thought that was kind of cool, and I wanted to recreate that in a way. So when you watch my movie Captain Corpse, there you go. That's some of the influence behind that film. And hopefully you enjoy that one. We'll see. But 10 Things I Hate About You, again, it came out in 99. And like I said, I love the dialogue in this film. I love how everyone has a chance to shine. I love how they use these, you know, really interesting set pieces. You know, that was something else my wife and I talked about, was the fact that the high school in this doesn't really look like a high school. Like, it looks more like a college campus. And from my understanding, it is in fact a high school. But yeah, it's just so cool, like how different it is. You know, we're all one country, but yet if you look at like East Coast schools versus West Coast schools, just how different things can be. But 10 Things I Hate About You, I love it. I watch it at least, like I said, 7 or 8 times a year. It is a movie that moved me. Does it do the same thing for you? Have you ever thought about it in that way when it comes to ensemble casts? Or are you somebody who says, hey, if it's got people I love, I'm gonna show up and watch it, even if it is bad, because I want to see all these people act together who don't normally get a chance to. Because this movie really was able to capitalize on that before all the people in it became super big stars. You know, trying to do that movie after they all hit stardom would have been more difficult, but they got them all as they were starting their incline as stars in Hollywood. And that's why we have this really awesome movie, 10 Things I Hate About You. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, my friends, be good to yourself, be good to others in that order. I'll see you soon.